You know what I was thinking? We all know those Club Masters in the TCG for the Game Boy Color are pretty much knockoff doppelgangers of their Kanto gym leader counterparts. Timu gym leaders, if you will. Jean of the Rock Club is Brock, Amy of the Water Club is Misty, you get the gist. They live on an island where Pokemon cards are quite literally the only thing that matters. So what if the tables were flipped? What if these Club Masters took the Pokemon from their decks and used them in the real world instead? Real world is in the red and blue versions, you know what I mean. But who would have the best and worst teams? So I spent an hour or two doing a bunch of calculations, and here's what I came up with. Each Club Master, of course, uses a deck of 60 cards. Most of them stick to a type theme and use multiples of each alongside a bunch of energies and trainer cards, but we aren't here to talk about those. I'm simply looking at what their final teams would look like as if they were actual gym leaders. So I'm omitting the multiples and I'm sticking to only one Pokemon each. And if the Pokemon evolves in the deck, I'm only counting the evolved one. In the end, each club leader ended with a team of 3 to 5 Pokemon each, so it's pretty perfect. And here's where all the calculations factor in. You know that box of Pokédex flavor text at the very bottom that nobody ever reads? Well, the other thing that has never mattered at all is that they show the Pokemon's level. The level does help to differentiate between cards of the same Pokemon, but that's really about it. They really are just numbers thrown onto the card to help give some immersion. But for this video, these levels are going to be what matters the most. So what I did for every single one of these Pokemon that the Club Masters use is go off of a Gen 1 stat calculator for their specified levels and added them all up. I had to stick to Gen 1 because of the special attack and special defense being grouped into the same stat, and well, the TCG is very much a Gen 1 game. So for each Club Master, I added them up and divided by the number of Pokemon they use to get a stat total average. Then it was an easy ranking of best to worst. That's all well and good, but there's more to it of course. So the next thing I did was write down which moves the Pokemon would have at their given levels. These can obviously vary by quite a bit if you factor in TMs or if they would know more than 4 moves, so I tried to go with the most logical choices here. TMs are off limits for this as that would make things way too complex. Most of the actual Gen 1 gym leader Pokemon do not know great moves anyway, with a prime example being Erica's Tangela knowing Constrict and Bind. And that's really about it. Comparing the stat totals are factual, but comparing the moves are going to be a judgment call on my part. So let's go over each of the 8 Club Masters and rank them from worst to best, in my opinion, as if they were gym leaders in the red and blue versions. And of course, this is not a foolproof method. The stats and moves would probably be slightly different if they actually existed this way, but these are what I'm going off of, and this is just for fun too. More of like a what if scenario. And hey, these are also some ideas for a theme team to try out if you want. Number 8. Rock Club leader Jean. Yeah, this is actually a pretty easy one. Jean's stat total average was nowhere near 7th place even, he's that low. But by replicating the first gym leader of Brock, this really isn't a surprise. He's usually the first one I take down too. Jean has a team of 4. First up is one of the single weakest Pokemon I'll be talking about in this video. I think there's one that's worse, but he has a level 12 Onix knowing Tackle and Screech. I mean, terrible. That's even worse than Brock's Onix, who is level 14. Jean's Onix is of no threat whatsoever. His next one isn't much better either. A level 18 Rhyhorn who only knows Horn Attack, and also terrible. Jean didn't even get a Rhydon in the deck. But his next 2 are where his power actually lies. A level 36 Golem knowing Tackle, Rock Throw, Self-Destruct, and Earthquake. Graveler or Golem just barely gets Earthquake in at level 36, so I mean, not too bad at all. But the best one here in my opinion would be his level 36 Dugtrio knowing the moves Growl, Dig, Sand Attack, and Slash. Dugtrio is very fast with high attack, so knowing Dig and Slash is the strongest part of his team. Clearly his team is only about Dugtrio and Golem, bringing his stat total average to 280.5, almost 100 points lower than the 7th highest. Also, his highest leveled mon here is 36, which is also the lowest of all the Club Masters. Number 7. Lightning Club leader Isaac. So already we're getting into some tricky comparisons here. Isaac is actually in 6th place for stat averages, but I think his team is just slightly less threatening than the 7th place Club Master. Isaac uses a team of 5, with his first being a level 28 Magneton, knowing Tackle, Sonic Boom, and Thunder Shock. Magnemite doesn't even evolve until level 30, so this is a weaker Magneton than it should be. And yeah, the moves aren't great. The actual base set Magneton card knows Thunder Wave and Self-Destruct, and if you didn't know, Magneton can't even know Self-Destruct in Gen 1. Weird, right? But this is a prime example of why I can't go off of just the moves on the cards themselves. Some are made up, and some they can't actually know. Next, he has a level 35 Electrode knowing Tackle, Sonic Boom, Self-Destruct, and Light Screen. And yeah, Voltorb and Electrode, 2 pure electric types, don't naturally learn any electric moves in Gen 1. So this is a case where you could say Isaac would maybe teach it Thunderbolt or Thunder or whatever, but this is why I can't go over every TM outcome here. Either way, Electrode has potential to be pretty decent for him, but the moves aren't too great. It's the fastest Pokemon in the game too. Next is a level 35 Electabuzz knowing Quick Attack, Leer, and Thunder Shock. Not all too much to say about it here. Pretty weak moves, but at the same level as Electrode. That's also it for electric types on the team. The last 2 are normal type Mons. He has a level 32 Tauros knowing Tackle, Stomp, and Tail Whip. Stomp is really the only move that matters here, and Tauros certainly has pretty high attack, so it's just fine. But his highest level is actually a level 40 Kangaskhan knowing Comet Punch, Bite, Tail Whip, and Mega Punch. Kangaskhan would be pretty decent with Bite and Mega Punch being what it would normally use, and this is not the only time we'll see this Kangaskhan example. So yeah, Isaac is statistically stronger than Gene with a stat total average of 392.2. None of his Pokemon's moves are outstanding or anything, but they all balance out decently well. Even still, he's gotta be pretty low in the rankings. Number 6. Water Club Leader Amy. So Amy is actually the one who would come in 7th for stat averages, just 2 points lower than Isaac. She has a team of 4, and one of them is what easily propels her over Isaac. First up is a level 23 Seadra knowing Bubble and Smokescreen. Horsey doesn't even evolve for 9 more levels, so what's the deal with a Fossil Seadra card? Also, Bubble and Smokescreen, like, who cares? Her next is a level 28 Seaking knowing Peck, Tail Whip, Supersonic, and Horn Attack. And again, Goldeen doesn't even evolve until 33, so like with Seadra, this Seaking is a miracle of science. Nothing too scary here. But next is a fairly decent one. A level 31 Lapras knowing Water Gun, Sing, Body Slam, and Confuse Ray. 31 isn't super high, but Lapras is good statistically and the moves aren't too bad. But it's her 4th team member that ends up being the only one Amy would need. A level 52 Blastoise knowing Bite, Withdraw, Skull Bash, and Hydro Pump. Yeah, now we're getting into some fierce ones. Blastoise at 52 would single-handedly take out Isaac's whole team, and especially Gene's. It's a powerhouse, which puts Amy's stat average at 390.75. Number 5. Psychic Club Leader Murray. Murray is actually ranked in 5th for stat averages. He has a team of 5, but the majority of them are normal types. Weird. For his 2 psychic friends, one is significantly better than the other. He has a level 28 Mr. Mime knowing Confusion, Barrier, and Light Screen. Barrier and Light Screen could help with the rest of his team, I guess, and Confusion is decent. But it's his level 42 Alakazam who blows Mr. Mime out of the water. Disable, Recover, Psychic, and Reflect. A level 42 Alakazam knowing Psychic. I mean, that's really all he needs. It would likely handle most of the other club leaders too. There are still some stronger levels out there, but Psychic is known to be the most overpowered type in Gen 1. Alakazam knowing Psychic is one reason why. Murray then has 3 pure normal types to round off his Psychic team. The weakest member is a level 20 Snorlax knowing Headbutt, Amnesia, and Rest. I don't know why they made the Hollow Rare fan favorite of Snorlax in the jungle set level 20, but they did, proving that these levels really mean nothing in the TCG. But as for a main game team, we have a fairly weak level 20 Snorlax here. Next is that same level 40 Kangaskhan that I already went over. Comet Punch, Bite, Tail Whip, Mega Punch, you know the drill. But his actual strongest Pokemon is a level 55 Chansey, knowing Sing, Minimize, Light Screen, and Double Edge. Chansey is such an incredibly unbalanced Pokemon with insane HP and really high special, but among the worst attack and defense you'll ever see. And it would only know Double Edge for an attacking move unless you really wanted to have it use Pound or Double Slap to do like 5 HP of damage. So this Chansey exists to tank with its HP and special. And yes, he could always teach it a special TM to take advantage of Chansey's high special, but these are my rules. And I mean, the card notoriously has Double Edge. So yeah, Murray's team would be all about that Alakazam and a high level Chansey for some tanking. His stat average total ends up as the first in the 400s at 418.6, and that's mostly due to a level 55 Chansey having such high HP. That bumped it up a bit. Number 4, Fire Club leader Ken. Ken is similar to Murray in that the majority of his team aren't even the type he's known for. He's a normal type gym leader with a couple fire boys thrown in. But in terms of the stat ranking, he actually has the 3rd best team, so let's see what we get. His weaker Firemon is a level 24 Magmar knowing only Ember. That's kinda surprising to me. Magmar doesn't even learn another move until level 36 in Gen 1, and it's Leer. You do find them in the high 30s in the Pokemon Mansion in the blue version, but this card says it's level 24, so Ember is all we get. But Ken's main spicy star of the show is a level 45 Arcanine knowing Ember, Bite, Takedown, and Agility. Ember is among the weakest fire moves, but Arcanine is more known for its attack, and Bite and Takedown would dish out some damage. Arcanine is fast, so Agility likely wouldn't matter too much. As for the normal types, we have a couple repeat ones here, so I also won't repeat myself. He uses the same Chansey and Tauros I already talked about, and yeah, Chansey is a big part as to why he's ranked 3rd in stat averages. He also has a level 36 Wigglytuff knowing Sing, Disable, Rest, and Body Slam. 36 isn't a crazy high level or anything, but Wigglytuff has decent attack, and like with Chansey, quite a bit of HP. Not all too bad. Should he be higher than Murray with that Alakazam? I don't know. Ken's stat average is higher at 443.2, so I'll stick with him here. These two are kinda interchangeable. Number 3, Grass Club leader Nikki. So in terms of stat averages, Nikki actually falls in 1st place by quite a lot actually. She averages out at 530, which is 81 higher than 2nd. Crazy stuff. But it just doesn't feel right putting her at number 1 to me, as she is the only club leader with a team of 3. However, she is tied for being the one with the single highest level Pokemon to compare here. But first, her lower leveled ones, which are what brings this team down a tad. She has a level 35 Vileplume, and the moves could vary a little here. I went with it knowing Stun Spore, Sleep Powder, Acid, and Petal Dance. Petal Dance is really what it's known for, and it's the only move that Jungle Vileplume even knows, and yeah, it's quite decent paired with Vileplume's high special. With the 2 status moves too, it wouldn't be half bad. Her second grassy friend would be the same level of a 35 Executor, but its moveset is tricky. I ultimately went with Barrage, Hypnosis, Reflect, and Stomp. Execute learns Leech Seed at level 28, and Executor learns Stomp at 28, so you gotta kinda pick one or the other because of Execute evolving with a Leaf Stone, and I think Stomp has more upside. Am I wrong there? Either way, Executor is considered to be a pretty great Gen 1 Pokemon, but these natural moves aren't too scary or anything. Hypnosis, Reflect, and Stomp could be a viable strategy though. But really, Nikki here is all about her main star. She rounds out with a level 67 Venusaur, knowing any moves you want from its evolution line. Crazy strong, and it's absolutely why Nikki ends up at number 1 with these stats. I ultimately went with Leech Seed, Razor Leaf, Sleep Powder, and Solar Beam, although I could see the argument for Growth or Poison Powder too. Although at 67, do you even need Growth? Razor Leaf and especially Solar Beam would wipe most everybody out. But yeah, this Venusaur is actually not the highest level Pokemon to discuss with these club leaders. There's another one that's tied. Number 2, Fighting Club leader Mitch. Mitch ends up being in 2nd for the highest stat total average at 448.5, and I can see why. His weakest one here is a level 30 Hitmonlee knowing just Double Kick and Meditate. Hitmonlee has pretty excellent attack, but it only being at level 30 isn't reaching its potential quite yet. Double Kick is a fairly weak fighting move and Meditate would boost it. And that's really about all that's going on here. It doesn't learn High Jump Kick until 48, although the Fossil card would have you believe otherwise. Next is a level 33 Hitmonchan knowing Comet Punch, Agility, and Fire Punch. Hitmonchan was always a weird one, with it being known for different kinds of special type punches, yet its special is terrible in Gen 1. So at 33, these are its only options as it just learned Fire Punch at 33. Comet Punch is quite weak, but Hitmonchan's attack is way higher than its special. Her third friend here is one of my personal favorite Pokemon, a level 35 Primeape knowing Leer, Karate Chop, Fury Swipes, and Seismic Toss. Primeape not really knowing a fighting type move kinda sucks, but it still has pretty great attack, and Karate Chop could be decent. Seismic Toss is a fighting type move, but stab wouldn't matter since it does set damage. And if you didn't know, Focus Energy in Gen 1 actually does the opposite effect that it's supposed to and lowers your critical hit rate. Avoid Focus Energy entirely. But Mitch's main star here is his dominant level 67 Machamp knowing Karate Chop, Low Kick, Seismic Toss, and Submission. Easily one of the best that I've discussed here. So really between Nikki and Mitch, I don't know, maybe I should switch the two now that I'm thinking about them. Venusaur versus Machamp might cause me to give the edge to Venusaur. The rest are comparing level 30s of Vileplume and Exeggutor versus Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, and Primeape. I think I gotta officially switch these two placements. Could I have just edited it out differently here? Why yes. Yes, I could have. But placing at number 1 really just is no contest for me, and for one reason alone. This club member even uses the single weakest Pokemon of all of them, but it doesn't matter. Number 1 is Science Club leader Rick. And we're starting off this number 1 spot with his level 12 Porygon knowing Tackle, Sharpen, and Conversion. What, am I nuts? That's horrible. Yeah, well, I like to cause some chaos, you know? But yeah, I think this Porygon is the single weakest one out of all the gym leaders. It's the same level as Gene's Onix, but at least Onix has a bit of defense going for it. A low level Porygon only being able to tackle, raise its attack, and change its type is not going to be going anywhere among the rest. Rick's next lowest is a level 27 Weezing knowing Tackle and Smog. This is yet another case where Weezing is a lower level than when Coughing actually evolves at 35. Also, that's pretty bad too. So why is this team at number 1? Well, his next one ramps the threat level up a little bit. A 34 Muck knowing Pound, Disable, Poison Gas, and Minimize. And yet again, Grimer doesn't actually evolve until 38, so it doesn't even know a strong move like Sludge yet. Okay, I feel like I'm not selling this team at all, but that's because Rick's 4th team member is the only Pokemon you would need from the entire bunch. He actually uses 2 different Mewtwo cards, so I went with the strongest. And yeah, he would have a level 60 Mewtwo knowing Confusion, Disable, Swift, and Psychic. I mean, need I say more here? Mewtwo, with a more than likely special stat at 207 at level 60 knowing Psychic. It would probably one-shot every single thing here. Rick could have 2 more level 12 Porygon and it wouldn't even matter because of his level 60 Mewtwo. If you think I'm way off putting Rick at number 1, then do tell me why, but nobody is going to take down a 60 Mewtwo knowing Psychic out of this bunch. It's just in the cards. But ooh boy, I think we should take this into a bonus round. Why not also talk about and rank the 4 Grandmasters here? And I'm not going to talk about Ronald's ultimate legendary Ronald deck because that nerd would have a team of 8 and that's taking things too far. I mean, his team would be some combination of Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, Vaporeon, Jolteon, Flareon, Kangaskhan, and Dragonite. That would get pretty ridiculous. So let's stick to the actual 4 Grandmasters. In 4th, and with the lowest stat average, is Icy Boy Jack at an average of 424.8, which would even put him in 5th place among the regular Club Masters. But it's just how it goes. Jack would have a team of 5, with only 3 of them actually being the Ice type, so let's start with the icy ones. First, a level 31 Lapras that I already talked about. Next, he has a level 37 Articuno knowing Peck and Ice Beam. Yeah, for some reason they made the ultimate sought-after legendary cards of Articuno and Moltres only level 37, but Zapdos at 68. They are considered a trio, so that's kinda disappointing that they're so far off from each other. Even still, a level 37 Articuno using Ice Beam isn't terrible by any means. But his highest level ice friend is actually a 42 Dugong knowing Headbutt, Growl, Aurora Beam, and Rest. It would only know Rest if Seal waited to evolve though. But yeah, not too bad at all. Aurora Beam is definitely not as strong as Ice Beam, but a 42 Dugong using it would still work out pretty well. So that leaves his two normal types, and they are vastly different from each other. Firstly, he has that same 55 Chansey that I've mentioned a few times, and then his team gets rounded out with an anticlimactic one. A level 19 Ditto, of course, knowing only Transform. So essentially a level 19 anything, minus the turn it takes to get the Transform in. Not much else to say there. Jack is still pretty good, but I think the other three Grandmasters are better overall. Number 3. Fire Grandmaster Courtney. It's close between Courtney and number 2, but Courtney simply has to be at number 3 because of the legendary bird comparison. But unlike her fire counterpart of Ken, she actually has a team of 4, and they are all of the fire type. And 2 of them I already talked about. Magmar just knowing Ember, and then the fairly decent Arcanine, so that leaves the 2 new ones here. Courtney also has a level 35 Ninetales knowing Tail Whip, Quick Attack, Confuse Ray, and Flamethrower. 35 isn't super strong compared to some of these, but yeah, Ninetales has pretty high special, and Flamethrower is one of the best fire moves it can have. Maybe even the best if you factor in the 100% accuracy compared to Fire Blast. Ninetales would be able to hold its own against most of the others. Which leaves her signature legendary, a level 37 Moltres knowing Peck and Fire Spin. Yeah, that's not great at all. Moltres, of course, has really good stats, but those moves really drag it down. Maybe Courtney should be below Jack, but I just kinda liked her Arcanine and Ninetales more than his Dugong and Lapras. Articuno's Ice Beam wins out over Moltres' Fire Spin, and Ditto is just kinda whatever. Either way, it's close. Number 2. Lightning Grandmaster Thunder Steve. Steve also sticks to a team of 4, and they are all actually the electric type. 2 of them I've talked about, level 35 Electabuzz and 35 Electrode. But his actual weakest one is a 29 Jolteon knowing Tackle, Sand Attack, Quick Attack, and Thunder Shock. Honestly, nothing great there, and Jolteon is kinda the whatever one for his team. But the reason he places at number 2 is really just because he has that level 68 Zapdos, who is the second highest level Pokemon out of all of them. A 68 Zapdos would know Thunder Shock, Drill Peck, Thunder, and Light Screen. So yeah, with Zapdos' special being roughly 195 and a speed of 161 using Thunder, it's absolutely not one to reckon with. Thunder only has a 70% accuracy, but if it hits, yeah, this Zapdos is no joke. But even still, number 1 is really no contest here, and it's not all too surprising. Grandmaster Rod acts as the TCG version of Lance, although he uses a variety of types. Firstly, the 2 I've already discussed, the 31 Lapras and the 40 Kangaskhan, so on to the new ones. He would also have a 41 Gyarados knowing Tackle, Bite, Dragon Rage, and Hydro Pump. And yeah, Gyarados is great with both attack and special, so Bite and Hydro Pump are quite nice. Dragon Rage, of course, always deals 40 damage, so that doesn't matter for its stats other than its speed, which is also fairly decent. Next we have the mighty Gen 1 Dragon itself, a 41 Dragonite. But also, Dragonair doesn't evolve until 55, and Dratini learns Dragon Rage at level 40, so technically there can't be a 41 Dragonite with Dragon Rage in Gen 1 unless you teach it with a TM. So I don't know, let's just go with it. I say this Dragonite would have Wrap, Thunder Wave, Slam, and Dragon Rage. Dragonite is of course very strong, so even though it's lower than when you can actually get one, it's still pretty great here. But finally, we have to end on the ultimate star of the entire show. The king of all Pokemon cards and the single highest level Pokemon that existed among these original 3 sets. Rod rounds his team off with the mighty level 76 Charizard knowing Leer, Slash, Flamethrower, and Fire Spin. Yeah, they weren't messing around with base set Charizard. There's a reason it's one of the most sought after and well-known Pokemon cards to ever exist. They made that thing level 76, really being the only thing who can maybe take down Zapdos or Mewtwo, just because of its level. Although a 68 Zapdos hitting Charizard with a Thunder would absolutely do some damage. Either way, this thing would be ridiculously powerful and Rod would likely dominate everybody else. And there we have it! Do you think I was way off with some of these rankings? If so, let me know in the comments and I will probably just be like, yeah, that makes sense. I really just made this for a fun side video, mostly to just look at who these Club Masters and Grandmasters would actually use. The rankings were more of a side thing to make it interesting. I mean, there isn't going to be a game where the first gym leader would hit you with a mid-30s Dugtrio and Golem. But it's just kind of fun to think about. A mighty level 76 Charizard thank yous go out to my Patreons at the end here. Check that out if you're interested in all that. And also, join my Bluesky if you use that at all. I pretty much retired my Twitter or X account because I really just don't like it anymore. But I try to post on Bluesky once in a while. Either way, I'll see you all next time for likely another tour of Kanto or card video. Paraspectre will return.